Hi everyone! Welcome back to the studio for this week's episode of Tutorial Tuesday. I'm so excited to have you back with me in the studio. Today we are recording episode number 80. That's crazy. It blows my mind. I mean, every episode, I'm just excited that it's another episode, but it's a big number, so I think it's kind of cool. Today, I thought I would show you kind of my take on getting inspiration from different avenues, say a photograph or something from your memory, and kind of creating your own world or your own idea out of that. So I'm going to show you the photo that I found online. I just was scrolling around and I was like, wow, look at all these really fun colors. I enjoyed the composition, but largely I just thought these trees were kind of cool. They're just like interesting pine trees, and I really love these fall foliage colors, and I just thought it looked really pretty, and that we would take this and get something inspired by it. So I really like water, so we might put some water in there and change up a little bit of the composition. I'm just gonna do it kind of from my head. I didn't draw it out. I'm just gonna use this as my inspiration. Maybe I'll sketch something out that seems kind of nice and work with it from there. So we're gonna do that process today, and I'm gonna show you. So to get started, we will condition our canvas and get it completely covered with paint. And I'm going to just use my 1-inch brush for that. I'll go into my Prussian blue and get a good bit. And we're going to add just a very, very small amount of Van Dyke brown, just to kind of gray it out a little bit, a tiny, tiny bit. And we'll see what that looks like up here. I've already prepped my 18 by 24 inch canvas with a very thin, even coat of liquid white. That's pretty important for this particular process that I'm showing you, because we're always mixing with these straight pigments onto the liquid white, and it's diluting the colors a little bit. So if you were trying to do this with acrylic paints and you weren't using the liquid mediums, you have to consider mixing in your white as you move down into your horizon, and you're going to need to add more white as you go further down. So there's going to be some technique changes, but it is still possible to do these paintings with different types of paints. You don't have to use the oil wet on wet process. I think it's the most fun because you really get to blend on the canvas the whole time, and it really teaches you about color combinations and mixing paints, and you just kind of learn to understand colors differently, and you kind of learn to see colors differently too. So give it a try. I don't know, it's what works for me. So let's do a little bit more dark on the top. I'm just going to work some of this dark down, and I'm only going to go like 1/4 of the way. So we're not going very, very far down, and we're going to use our blending brush to soften this into our liquid white later. A little bit darker. And since we're going to have water, which there isn't any water in the original photo, which, I mean, pads are cool too, and hiking is fun, but I just love a good stream. So we're going to paint some water and has some really nice reflections today, because it's my world and I can do whatever I want. So can you. I know you've heard that from somebody before, but it's some good learnings, and I hope you all can learn from him as much as I did. But Mr. Bob, he was a cool guy. This blue, it looks like I didn't put quite enough liquid white on the bottom, so you can tell it doesn't spread the same. It was a little bit hard to get that paint in there, but now we're back to the good amount of liquid white, and we're moving. Let's go maybe make these even somewhat. Ooh, man, I really do like that. Prussian blue and Van Dyke brown together, they're just such a real color, that deep blue of deep skies and like the autumn feels. I'm just using my big blending brush to soften this out, and I'm going to start halfway in the liquid white and halfway in the blue and soften that out very slowly. We can just go up and down with this stroke and then moving horizontally as well. So it's a little bit of effort. We can make long strokes to get rid of any of those little marks, and we'll move up and soften it just the same. So we just can't quite tell where those lines are in between the colors. Just soften it all the way out. Light touch up here. There's a lot of pigment up here, and we don't want to pick all of it up. We just want to soften out the brush strokes. So very lightly. And then you can see as you move down, sometimes you might put some paint down here because you were just up top blending it. That's okay. Just wipe out your brush. And then you can come right back up here and rework it. Pick up some more of that liquid white, and you can just make it like it never happened. Now, wipe out the brush one more time, and then we'll do this water. I'm intentionally trying to leave at least a really small space here that's still relatively unpainted. That's going to give me this liquid white for later, so we can create the atmosphere and give us the depth effect and do it with very little effort. So try not to get rid of all of it. And we'll just do long horizontal blending strokes. We'll bring this up just a touch. All right, I think that this is just so simple as it is. I'm going to move on to the mountain. I'm going to clean off my little palette knife here with another palette knife. Just kind of get rid of excess paint. It can make for some pretty interesting break lines when you're painting a mountain, but it typically just makes it more difficult for me because I like to use the tooth of the canvas more for the texture of the mountain as opposed to something that is inconsistent. So I like to clean my tools because I didn't do that quite as well for the last tutorial and I was paying for it, but now let's see. Nice and shiny. I'm gonna mix up, I think I'm gonna go for kind of a little bit of the brown mountain, similar to the photo. So we'll use some blue, yeah, that much. A little bit of crimson and some Van Dyke brown. We'll just pick that up and flip it over once. I want the mountain mixture to stay marbled, so we don't want to overmix that. We'll grab some titanium white and just put in some of that mixture. And it's kind of a little too blue. It's cool, but I just want a little bit more color variations, and there, that looks fun. Then we can get all kinds of really fun stuff to happen up on our mountain as we paint it with pretty, again, little effort. So let's pick out, I think I'm gonna have my stream really similar to where that path was, coming around this way. I could even do a little sketch just to show a small idea. You know, we'll have our stream kind of popping out, maybe somewhere over here, and it's gonna come wrap itself around and out this corner, and we'll have some real nice reflections of some autumn colors, and maybe something over here, I don't know, but a little something like that. And we'll decide how much land we have over here. So with that in mind, let's get a mountain, kind of build it out, because this is our world and we can do whatever we want, and we can shape this mountain however we want. Maybe you have an idea of a mountain in mind and you can paint that. I don't particularly have one today, although there are a few that tend to come out when I'm free-handing a mountain. Let me know if this looks like one near you. Maybe I've been there. Maybe it was in a dream. But I'm going to have this main part of the mountain kind of here, and it's going to be pushing itself kind of out into the distance, out this way. And we're going to play around. Maybe it's not that rough. Nice rocky mountain, huh? We're almost at the summit now. There's not much out here. A few animals, but it's quiet. Too far for too many hikers. You'll have the place to yourself. I like that. Okay, I'm getting a little out of control. I was going to do kind of a small mountain, but now it's not kind of a small mountain. Let's just blend out the bottom of this, and we'll see where it gets us. Picked up a little bit of pink there. Just get rid of that and soften this out. I lost all my towels. Everything's fine. Don't worry. It's only me suffering over here with messy brushes. Get myself all tangled up in these wires and I can't go anywhere anyway. I have the stuff. It's just kind of hard to get to. Ooh, that's going to be fun. Okay, so originally I had planned that the light was going to be coming from the left, but it looks like it's not that way in this particular scene. So we've got a little bit more light coming over here. I think we'll just play with that, and we'll have our light source coming from the right hand side. So let's mix up some highlights and shadows. Wow, that was just hard amount of words in the same sentence together apparently. I'm grabbed just a little bit of titanium white and some of the lighter mountain mixture, and I'm just going to mix those together. That's going to give us a nice kind of medium range, and then we'll grab some more titanium white, and I think I'm going to stick with a little bit of the brown mountain idea. We'll mix up a little bit of some browns, maybe a touch of yellow ochre in that, and a little bit more dark, maybe, woo, no looking, maybe a little bit of bright red. I don't know, all kinds of fun browns and fun colors there. That's going to be some of our highlight. Then keep mixing up colors here. A little bit of a shadow color. We'll just go right into some of these blues and pick some of that up. Van Dyke brown. Nice and marbled. All of these are very, very marbled colors. We've got blue, something in the middle, nice bright brown, and then we're going to play in some more colors here later. So let's just start with these and see what they get us. Pull them out into a flat line, cut off a little roll of paint. This is going to be our highlight, and we'll start on the furthest away, which, as we kind of talked earlier, this is going to be pushing out into the distance over here. So the furthest away, it's the easiest in my opinion most times. Take that however you want. I think it's usually the easiest to remember what you're doing step by step if you start painting your mountain on a section either furthest away or closest away. But if you're going to work close, then layering everything is a little bit more difficult. So if you start the furthest away, you can always just go on top of it and change it. So furthest away, moving closer. Maybe these are really, really far and then this one's going to be in front. So we'll just push these ones back behind that one. A little bit of color there. And then this one on top. And it'll go right in front. There we go. And we've got another little mound right there. We could even build that just a touch, just a little more. We want to come in with some more shadows before we go too far down. Maybe all of this is just some little spiry looking rocks back here. I don't know, I'm making it up. Oh, that's nice. This one, maybe this is just a big slab. Ooh, just came right out of nowhere. Whoa, nice big rock. Now we're moving further away again, so let's start over here. It's nice and far, moving closer. And a little bit closer. And now we're back on the same field here. So let's take this medium mixture. I'm going to grab some of that and some of this shadow color together. And I'm going to start on this side now, furthest away, with the shadows. We've got a nice brownish, bluish, fun color. Ooh, I really like this. And I'm just kind of varying up these two colors here and there. This nice and dark back here. Really, really dark. There's not going to be a lot of light hitting it because we've got this big rock here. So we don't need a lot of color. I'll go for my darker color back here. We can work some of those down. Maybe here we might have a little bit more reflected light. Maybe there's water. We can get our brighter blue and work some of those in there. Darker. Let's see what this one, nice big rocky slope there. I really like to work in stages for my mountains. So I'll do a couple different colors and we kind of start with a little darker color and work with that, kind of build it up into a little bit more later. And I find that it just makes a pretty realistic and rugged looking mountain. And you can really play around with it and move it around and have fun and imagine yourself up there. And I don't know, what would it be like coming down this hill and you're like, wow, it's real steep. Maybe it'll level out a little bit more and ooh, give some relief, and you can just make whatever you want. Whatever. Whatever you want. I think I want a little more right there. Let's just bring this one. All right. Whoa, right on over. Look at that. Super fun. Now, let's build just a touch more on our highlights and get some fun colors of the sun popping through here. We've got a good amount of base color. Maybe we could bring a couple of these highlights to the shadow side. Just bring them together a little. Now, touch of titanium white. And we'll pick up our browns. Let's just flip that back over. I'm going to do some yellow ochre and bright red. Van Dyke brown, just to marble it a touch more. And let's see how this looks. We'll start over here. Maybe we've got a big brightness right there. Nice. Maybe another little bit. Oh, you could just see it. You could just see the sun dancing right there. Look at that. Nice. Maybe right on this. He's just nice and like a whisper. Maybe moving on to this big slab up here. And maybe a little bit here. Oh, that's just so fun. Now we'll build a tiny bit more on our shadow side. Maybe there's just a little bit of snow or some cold areas back here. Let's see, I think right here, I bet there's some snow right there. It looks cold. Let me just take some nice thick white and some blues, a little muddiness. You could just throw in some globs of snow. Like winter's on its way. Yeah, I like it. Just a little more pop there. And I think I'm going to do even just the tiniest bit. Get some yellows. Oh, that's a real gold color. touch of red to that. I think I'm probably out of our palette cam here. There's my color. There you go. I lost it. A little bit more gold. I want a big sunny color. Wipe that off. And maybe this one. Ooh, we forgot one. This one, right there. Oh, you could see it. There it is. Nice. All right. We'll stop there. I think, probably. I'm just going to blend the bottom out, see what we've got. Go right up to where we've got this kind of dispersed browns. We just want to grab a tiny bit of that. Try not to go up too far. Just a little bit. Soften. This way now. Now we picked up some mud. Let's just get rid of that. Nice and easy. We'll work our way up into this nice light area that we left there with that little bit of that liquid white still. We want that. Bring that up. Get rid of all those brush strokes. Nice and easy. Work up really, really slow. Really slow. Now, lift. And we're going to pull this brush in the direction of all of these hills. So we're going to come up and just lightly let up. We kind of pull away from the canvas. So we're going to go into the paint and then pull off the canvas. So it's not, you don't want to brush through the whole thing. We want to ease up on the pressure as we go into this and just lightly kind of brush over some of it. So it's like it's slightly different than what it looks like on camera, but we're pulling and lifting away from the canvas here. Very important if you do have struggles with blending your mountain. That will really, really help you getting that stroke right, just barely. And it looks like I'm brushing over this really, really hard, and I am, to right about here. And then I'm pulling my brush away, pulling it away, very fast. Can't really do it super slow. It's not very effective. You kind of have to go and, you know, make that noise. Works. Works. Same thing over here. I'm pushing and I'm pulling away. And it really is like we're lifting it, right? Oof. Lift and pull away. Nice. Now that mountain is just elevated in the sky. I mean, where is it? It's way out there, way back. We can even lift, you go a little bit higher, you can see I'm picking up some of these browns. We're just softening out the base. We'll just get rid of that. Easy peasy. Look at that. Man, you can almost put some clouds in here and just, woof, it's in the sky. But we're not going to do that. We're going to put some trees in here today. Pine trees. Okay, let's start with the fan brush that was stuck, and I got it out. I'm going to just clean up some of this paint. I'm probably going to use it. We'll just kind of pile it over into some of these, just, you know, we'll get all of these blues. I just want to get rid of this big mess that I made, and then I can start making a new mess. Fun. All right, we'll wipe this off. let's begin. We have our mountain mixture right here. There's still some left without the titanium white. I'm just going to pick all that up and flip it over. Grab some alizarin crimson, sap green, Prussian blue, browns, both browns now, dark sienna and Van Dyke brown. We're going for all of our darks together. Go ahead and mix up a pretty good amount. I think we're going to be using a good bit of it, and I don't want to run out. All right, so I mixed up a nice dark mixture for some trees, and I'm just kind of seeing, maybe we'll put a little foothill here first, and then we'll do some trees. So I'm just gonna pick up my dirty 1-inch brush from putting in my sky color here, and I'm just gonna pick up a touch of this dark mixture, and then grab some titanium white. I think we'll get a little darker. I kind of want it to be a little bit more sunshiny. Let's do that. And we'll just put in a little, maybe we'll just do a little foothill over here. Something simple. And then we'll have some trees kind of coming in before it, right on this side. A little bit more dark. Let's say probably a tiny bit more on this edge here. Another little kind of section there. That's nice. We'll stop there, and let's do something for the highlights. Let's do some Indian yellow. We'll just start with that and see what this gets us. It'll probably get us a nice green, but I really want it to be kind of like a crisp gold in there. So we'll start with some of these. Indian yellow, yellow ochre. We're just gonna get kind of a nice muddy greenish color. Pulling down the paint, and once I get the color kind of what I want, I'm pushing the brush back up into the paint. So it's loading the edge of the brush. It's a pretty classic load for some nice grasses, and it works really well. Flip your brush over to that nice beaded bit of paint, and that's what you start with. And then we'll just work it down and allow some of these colors to blend together. Let that work for a bit. You don't need to reload right away. Let this paint work for you. There, nice. Now we'll reload. Indian yellow and yellow ochre, same color. We're just kind of mixing those up. Pull them down, push the brush up into it, and flip your brush over so that big bead of paint is on the other side. That's what we paint with. And we can bring some of these kind of back and around, and we'll soften them. Look at that, nice and soft. Maybe a touch more. Push up and get that roll of paint. We paint with that roll of paint. Really simple. Just get a little idea happening up there. Now I'm going to pick up my blending brush and just soften that out. It's the same dirty blending brush I've been using, so we've got some blues in here. You got to be careful, but that's kind of what we want. Starting at the bottom, just lightening this up. I want these kind of greens and golds to play in behind our next area, the next scene. And this is creating atmosphere. This is pushing this section back, and it pushes that one even further back by adding this next layer. So when you're trying to paint the atmosphere, trying to create depth in your paintings, try and consider using your liquid white to work with your process here. So we still have a lot of liquid white here and not a lot of pigment. So we're using that to soften and add that little mistiness in between this layer and the next layer. And it's going to create atmosphere. Now we just lift, soften. I'm using that same long stroke when I get very close to these paints that I was using on this mountain. Pulling my brush in and then away. In and away. And that's going to give you less bristles as you get into that paint, and it will hopefully keep more of it the way you want it. Now, I want to come in here with just a little bit more. I'm going to kind of just round out some of these backs here, and then I'm going to come in with a little bit more gold. We'll use this same brush, I think. Actually, let's use the fan brush. That's just so much more fun, and it's clean. Liquid white, and then we'll go into Indian yellow and yellow ochre. Let's just go into this nice gold color. The combination that we used for this sky over here will work quite nicely. Maybe a touch of red. Ooh, that might have been too much. That's okay. Here we go. A little bit. Now I'm going to pick out our sun that's coming in here and just bouncing off these little hills and sparkling it up. Oh, look at that. And it just pops against these other colors that we put in here kind of as our base. Just press up some sunshine, maybe this big meadow over here will just be like basking in the sun. Maybe there's some golds and reds, just a little bit. Nice. A little bit more greens, a little bit darker, where as we move kind of more down. Maybe to there. We'll stop. And then blending brush again. And we'll just soften some of this out. Now we've got some nice meadows out in the distance, hitting the sun. Oh, that's just so nice. Ooh, good colors today. Now, pine trees. I'm gonna get a different fan brush. I have many. And I'm just gonna load this up with a bunch of dark. We made that big pile of dark. And this is probably one of the most important things to learn with a fan brush is one, you can use it for other things other than pine trees, but when you wanna do a pine tree, you can load this brush up with so much paint. And the more paint that you load it up, the more trees that you'll be able to paint, and the bigger and deeper and more details that you'll be able to create, because you're going to get all of these big darks in there. So you can do all kinds of mid-tones and lights on top of it. Loading the fan brush, we just pull it down and wiggle it through on both sides, and then we load it into a nice fine point. That's a lot of paint. Now, I think I'm going to have a lot of trees over here, so I'm just going to pick out where some of them are to get me going. Got a little hill. Maybe this whole thing is on this big hill. Maybe I'll come up a little bit higher, I think. And then we've got our water coming around here. So maybe these trees will just run all the way to that water. Don't want to cover all of our mountain up there, but maybe something like that. Let's start. We'll do some of these smaller ones over here, and we're going to do a down press on this. So we kind of, on the beginnings, we can kind of just tap and move our brush from side to side. And then as it gets bigger, we press down on the corner of that brush. There's no need to really rush it. You could go fast and buzz through a bunch of these, but it's kind of fun to really create some nice, I don't know, variety and character. And if you take your time, you can create some real fun trees. And I think we're pretty high up in the mountains, so these ones are, they're a little bit more rugged. They're not quite as full, and all they've tried. They've had the hard life. But they stand together, and that makes them strong. Give them a little ground to stand on over there. Oh yeah, let's do some of these, maybe some in the background. They're a little smaller, a little further away, and then we can do some of these bigger ones on top. I think probably one of the hardest things in using this particular stroke is just remembering on both sides to kind of move your wrist around, but continue to keep that corner of the fan brush, only the part that's in use for the majority of this. As you move to the bottom of the tree, you can kind of open up the stroke a little bit more, but we don't want to just be painting a bunch of round frowny faces. So we try and use the corner of the brush, and you can get different bits. You can use the other side of the corner of the brush too. But for this particular one, I am trying to get more space in between, kind of make them, you know, this nice rugged pine trees that you just see up at the top, right before there's no trees. You know, you're that far up there and they're just rugged. So we tap and move our wrist kind of around this tree. Now we're at the bottom. We give it something to stand on. Oh, I didn't quite load up enough paint on that one. There we go. and this we can just make nice and dark. We'll have a couple trees right there, so that's okay. Let's do, man, I'm glad I mixed up all this paint. I don't have to mix anymore. That's nice. Fun. I was thinking when I put all these in that maybe it would be too many, but I'm pretty stoked. This looks cool. I like it when it works out and it's fun. We'll see if it all works out. So far, so good. Maybe I spoke too soon. Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. It is fun. You just take a little bit of time on a couple of your pine trees. You'll really learn a lot on painting them. Just really focus on one at a time as opposed to the big bundle. And then as they become the big bundle, they'll really, really come together. And think about them not all being just straight up lines. There's hills and there's angles up here. So they're all going to be growing in kind of different directions. Maybe the wind blows one way. Who knows? Maybe this one is a little curvy over here. Well, you just got a little tiny bit of a rough couple years when he started off, and then he decided, oh, we could do this nice. There we go. Look at that. Oh, fun. Let's do this one. Now we can still see that little hill that we created back there. We can see that next layer and that sky, so it really pushes everything back and brings us to this plane here. And you could do this 8 or 12 or 15 times by just doing one layer at a time, softening the base of it, and then putting in another layer on top. Over and over, you can create some big, beautiful scenes. Get some more land down here. I think we got most of those all filled in. Let's just work out a little dark into our land. And maybe we'll have this come down a little more. Something to give us our water. Just some more dark. Now we've got a little stream. We're going to need some reflections. Sure. Something like that. Just fill those in with the dark. Running out of dark. We'll make it. Love it. Now, I'm going to let these are going to be our reflections in the stream that we kind of talked about. I'm going to let that sit for a little bit while we work on a few more things so that when we come and kind of smooth that out, we don't get rid of all of those details because I kind of still want to have some of these little bits of blues and some of that in between there. So we're going to let it sit. Let's do something else Let's do a couple more trees over here. I like that. Maybe just 2 or 3 or 6. Just kidding. That'll take too long. Maybe just 2. Okay. Load that up. And maybe right there. Right there. Oh, I lied. It is going to be 3. Big one right there. I'm going to mix up just a tiny bit more paint because it appears as though I've run out. Let's just grab all of my darks that I have left. Whatever. Anything that's nice and dark is going to work right now. Now, just load those up. I'm going to start with this little one out here. Reload. It also just brings those bristles back together so that you can start off fresh. Even if you still have paint on it from doing a small tree, I definitely recommend just going through your paint again to make sure that your bristles are holding together and that you'll be able to get the shape that you want. I mean, reliability is key, so you want to be able to repeat things for yourself as an artist, and the way to do that is to repeat the way that you load your brushes and to make sure that you're always starting off, you know, in the best way that can help you in the future for your art. And I like to make sure that my bristles are all together. Look at that. Wiggle it and pull it down, and they're mostly together. Pine trees really beat up the fan brush. It's pretty fun. Now this one's gonna be a big old guy. Let's just kind of start him off. Need more paint. Have this hill going up that way. Oof. And maybe it'll come around. We'll see. I think I'm gonna start with that. Just give this one a little bit in the middle, make them a little darker. There we go. Now, our water is over here, so we don't need any reflections over here. This might just end up being a bunch of dark, so we can just, maybe we'll stop there just for now. Who knows, maybe there'll be a river into a big pond or lake. That could be cool. Get to do whatever I want. Okay, got some yellow ochre, bright red titanium white. Just gonna marble those together, cut off a little roll of that. Our light is on the right hand side, so we'll tap and pull around to the left our little tree trunks. I'm gonna reload. We don't want all of it. You don't have to paint the whole trunk, but you definitely want to make sure that you have paint in areas where it's showing, right? Oh, look at that. There's a spot. And then we can come back through with some highlights and really make them pop here. we want to just kind of scrape in a little tippy tops on a few of these. And we can scrape in some more. Look at that. Oh, just make it look like there's a whole forest back here. Let's add some of those for harmony. They're up here and they're down there. Okay, maybe just a couple more. Getting a little carried away. I also just love taking the knife and going right into the bark, basically. So I'm in the brown. I'm going to pull it out. Make some little, tiny little tree branches. You could use a script liner. This is just, they're so small and they really show up. I love the way that this looks once you put the highlights on top. You can make some bigger ones out in front. But these are those little details. Don't forget these ones. Okay, this is just so fun. Having fun today. Now I'm gonna go put in a few highlights on these trees. So we'll use the fan brush, and this is the yellow fan brush that I was using earlier. I'm gonna go into some liquid white. I bring this over here because I'm gonna need it. And we'll just start with this yellow, load it up. And then I'm going to go over to this muddy and get some green. Just green and whatever dirty yellows that you already had out. We're just going to make this nice and fun. Maybe a touch more blue. There we go. We can just darken it a touch with our main color. We are going to be picking up that color, and this is going to be darkening as we move through the trees. Our light source is coming from the right, and we tap on the top, down this right hand side, and some through the middle, wherever the sun might be hitting. Reload. Now it would be a real shame to have taken all that time to paint these trees to then come on top and get rid of all the dark. So we don't need to do all of them. We don't need to do the entire tree. We don't need to do all the trees. Just the areas that are going to be hitting in the light. Touch more yellow. A little bit more liquid white. It's not sticking as much as I'd want it to, so we'll just thin it down a touch, and there it is. Maybe a touch more of our Indian yellow, and we'll just pop in a few There we go. And what we really want is a little bit down here. And then last, we're going to do this other side. These ones might be a little bit more shaded because our sun is kind of right over this hill there. So we'll see if we can just darken them a touch and go down on this right-hand side. Always being sure to cross over the center so we can make those tree branches, the tree trunks, look right. There you go. You just cover that gap and it just is like you planned it the whole time. I'm just going to reload my brush a little bit here and just give this little guy a little tickle. And last, just like we did on the mountain, we're going to do a little pop of sunshine on some of these. Liquid white and Indian yellow straight. I did wipe out my brush. A little touch of yellow ochre, but mostly Indian yellow. Hold on. Here we go. Let's put it right here so we can see it. There we go. Now I do need this to be nice and thin. It is still kind of mixing a little bit with the greens that we had on the brush. That's not a big deal. Primarily though, the color is yellow and that's what we want. Now on a few of these, let's decide. Maybe some of these and maybe one of these and that one there. Let's just dance a few extra sunlight bits. Maybe this one over here. Maybe, what did we say, this one? Maybe. A little more on this. Yeah, I like that. We'll just add a little bit of that extra gold kind of in our reflections. I think we're missing a dark right here. This needs to be a little bit more. And then yeah. And now let's finish this little bit of this bit here. I'm going to start furthest away, pulling down some reflections, the least bit of mud. Now I try not to go over it too many times. Wipe off brush. Straight across. And I'm going to lift this back because I got a little bit less straight. we can just pull it straight up and back into our reflection there to straighten out those lines. All right, I'm gonna do a little bit of this shore over here. I think I still have a little bit of yellows on my fan brush, so I'm just gonna come in with some of that over here and start with some pops of color. I feel like it's just gonna be some long grassy bits, and we'll come in with some reds here. Let's pick up a little bit of red. Ooh, fun. And we'll get some yellow ochre. Ooh, oh, looks like I got a little titanium white with that one. That's okay. We'll just mix that up there. Kind of bring these down. I'm pressing up with the fan brush and pushing it around, getting all kinds of fun shapes here just to give us some shrubs and bushes and all kinds of fun things just living over here at the edge of the water. Let's push a few of these colors into our reflections as well. Just some of that. And maybe a little more yellow. Who knows? Maybe there's some greens in here still. Kind of getting further away from our light source. It's getting a little bit darker over here. Not too loud. Yellow ochre, bright red. Gives us a nice little muted brownish red over here. Really fun color. Now let's work in a little bit of shore. A little bit of those colors into the water. I'm going to pick up my palette knife, and I need some more Van Dyke Brown because I ran out. And I'm going to get some crimson as well because I don't see any of that, and I might want it. Van Dyke Brown. This one, crimson. And I do still have some dark sienna, so we'll just pick up, I threw my paint, pick up half dark sienna, half Van Dyke Brown, and we'll just smoosh it together there. Maybe I'll pick up some of these blues and get a little bit of harmony with some of our mountain color we had back over there. Now, we can just work real steady here, farther away, and then in front. And we'll get some rocks on the shoreline here. Ooh, I am just really liking this painting, which is quite a contrast from last week. I wasn't as thrilled about it, but you guys all thought it was pretty awesome, which is great, thank you. But I wasn't quite as thrilled. It's drying actually quite nice, and I like it, but when I was painting it, I was having a hard time. But this one, I'm having a lot of fun, which probably means that you all hate it. I'm just kidding. But I do really like these colors, and I loved these bright reds, and the cool composition was pretty nice with the mountain and some of these hills and the trees from that original image. But I really just love water and reflections, and so why not just do it, make it your own, because that's what you want to paint and that's what you want to see. Busted. Okay, this is just really cool though. Let's do maybe up in some of these little. We can just pull some of that kind of into the water there, just a little. Really nice. And we'll just take the big blending brush and we want to pull some of this brown into the water. Right at the water's edge, it's always going to be very, very dark. So when we put in our shore, whatever the rocks, whatever your dirt, whatever, anytime that you do that, if you just pull some of that down into the water, you're going to get that harmony that we keep talking about for your paintings, and it just brings all of those colors together and really makes it work. Now we have some pretty harsh lines here. I'm just going to go and feather that out. And it's the same stroke that we've been using quite like a few times here, and I've talked about it. I'm pushing into the paint and pulling my paintbrush off and away from the canvas. That gives you that feathered effect. I was hoping to try and talk a little bit more about some of the strokes that I do because they're kind of hard to see on camera. But if you are really interested in learning some more in-depth styles, like ways to improve your painting, or if you just have a lot of questions and you're having a hard time, definitely send me an email. I do private lessons and they're pretty affordable. They're over the web. It's really similar to this kind of a setup. And it's just one-on-one, you and me. And if you'd really like it, we can even get you a recording of that private lesson into your inbox so that you can watch it over and over again in the privacy of your own room. And we can address really direct questions that you're struggling with. Maybe you just have a really hard time painting pine trees and you want to get better at it. We can do a class that's just showing you all the different ways to paint pine trees. Maybe you want to paint a commission for somebody and you're just struggling, or there's a scene that you're having a hard time picking colors for. Shoot me an email, Kaylee@KayleeRakowski.com, and let's chat about how we can help you improve and understand this process and enjoy it so that you can just have fun painting whatever you want, whenever you want, because you understand how to do it. So send me an email. I'd love to chat with you about classes. Now, let's do some highlights on our rocks. I already have a little bit of a color mixed up over here. I'm just going to pick all of these lights up and flip them over. And we'll just drag that along on the right side where our light is going to be catching it. I haven't reloaded yet. It's getting darker. That's okay. Right now we'll get one more pile of paint. And do a few of these big rocks here. They're back in the sun a little bit. Nice. All right, wipe that off. Pull down just a touch of that light color now into our reflection. So careful, so careful. You could really ruin your day if you're not careful. Very light. And you can see there's some paint that's being picked up down here. That's okay. Wipe off your brush. And we've still got a little bit of a light area here that we're gonna fill in, just pick up some of that paint, that light paint, and push it back in. Look at that, like it never happened. Now, let's do a water line, and then we'll finish off this side here. Palette knife, we'll go into a little bit of liquid white and titanium white. So I just dip my knife into the liquid white, and I'm just gonna put that on my palette. Now I'm gonna grab whatever I have left of this blue, which is not much, but that's the right amount. Marble it with our titanium white. We're looking for a medium texture here. Medium texture. And that is not blue, it is yellow, so let's make it blue. Good enough. It's kind of gray. I'm going to load both sides. This is not how I always paint water, but it is really fun. If you smoosh all your paint out, am I in the palette screen? Oh, here, let's do this. Gotta reset up my palette cam. It's just missing some of my palette, but let's start over. There we go. Now I'm gonna take this medium texture titanium white and kind of some of our gray mixtures. Liquid white, titanium white, gray, gray, green, whatever. We cut down and across and then push up. So now we have a double loaded knife. It's loaded on the back side and on the front side. Isn't that fun? So we'll take this, and every now and then this paint on the top is going to grab onto this really thick paint that we have as our rocks. The bottom side of the knife we drag to create our water lines and the ripples and those round little ripples. So we're going to be doing two things at once, but you only really have to focus on one. So we take our palette knife, straight line, we're always cutting straight horizontal lines, and then we kind of round them as we move down. That's the easiest way. So right here, straight, little roundy, another one there. Maybe it's moving, and oof, there's another one. Look at that. Now, this top bit, grab just a tiny bit on that first one, and that second one giving us a little bit of that lightness right on the bottom of the rocks. Kind of hard to see, but you'll see it when it dries. Pull down, go across, push up. Kind of looks like a little H almost on the palette. Tuck that one just right behind there. Wiping it off, cutting down, cutting across, pushing it up. Right around this edge. Look at it go. Oh, man, when it works sometimes, just gotta keep going. You're having a good day. Cut down, go across, push up. Now, we step back and just check. Some of these look like they're not all the way flat. Maybe right here we lost just a tiny bit of that straight flat. So we can come right back in with your palette knife and just tap flat little water lines. Lost my knife. I picked up my palette knife again. I'm going to add in just a few more. Down, maybe some more water lines, like this water is just kind of moving, not too fast. I want it to feel like it could just kind of, I don't know, it looks like it could be kind of cold, but I still want to put my feet in it for some reason. Maybe, no, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to put in a few sticks and twigs. Just scrape. I'm scraping up in the dark areas, trying to focus one little bush at a time, and just start in the center, maybe pull out a few little sticks from that. You could just see those little trees. They're right there. Little bushes and happy little things here and there. Making the cameraman work. Where am I gonna go next? Gotcha. Okay, picking up my 1-inch brush, I'm just gonna go with all the rest of this dark, and we're gonna bring this land right on over in front. We don't want to get rid of all of that water that we just created, but let's make maybe something a little reminiscent of this hill back here, some grass, but it's still kind of autumny. You know, the tail end of summer, but in the high mountains, just fall comes so fast up there. Kind of running out of dark. Let's pick up some crimson and go back into our browns. Maybe a touch of that green there. There we go, brown it down. Nice and dark. It has to be dark over here. Doesn't much matter what it looks like yet. I think I'm going to put in some big rocks, like some big boulders or something. I'm going to pick up all of my browns and some of this blue and make up a nice new rock color, very similar to our old rock color. Let's just grab all this dark too. What the heck? That is a nice pile of rocks that's about to happen. Maybe, ooh, what if it's like a big slab, kind of comes down like that on the edge of on the edge of these trees, just a big rock slab like this. And it kind of comes down there. And maybe like that. And then there'll be some grass in front and some more rocks. Big rocks. Okay, maybe like that. And we can just bring some of these, soften them down in. We'll put some grass in here and maybe one more rock boulder thing. Now, our sun is over here, so these are going to be in the shadow. Let's just grab some titanium white, and we'll use this brown and blue. And a touch more white. And I think I want some crimson. Ooh, like a little purple. Kind of like still has some marbledness in there. That's pretty important. I think it really makes nice rocks. And then you just don't have to try as hard to get all those fun colors as long as you're kind of putting it in the right spot, you know. We'll just start down on this outside here. Fun. Maybe a little more right here. Now, we need even more dark. Get some blue and some white. And we'll do this back side here with a little bit of this gray. And then we're going to do one more color on the top of these rocks, just to kind of make a little bit of light bounce. We've got water over here, so there's going to be a good amount of blue light kind of bouncing off of that. So we'll pick up titanium white. We have this watercolor that I used to mix up. It was kind of a light textured gray. I'm just going to grab a few more bits, and we've got a nice blue-gray color. Cut off a little roll of that, and right on some of the edges of these rocks, we'll put in a nice bit of this blue. And as this dries, it'll just work just right to kind of reflect that water color onto these rocks. Maybe a little right here too. Oh, really nice. Now, fan brush. The yellow one, which doesn't quite look yellow anymore. I'm just gonna squeegee that one out and pull all of the paint out. We just pinch it and pull it. I go through a good bit of fan brushes, but I don't think that it's too bad. Pretty reasonable. Maybe like 5 fan brushes every 6 months. But in respect to these bigger brushes, I can go through 2 of these a year and 5 of these a year, or 8 of these a year. So the big brushes definitely last a lot longer, but the fan brushes with all these pine trees and all the fun stuff that you can do with them, blending with them, making clouds, you're just gonna go through them. Just accept it. You'll be a lot happier not trying to save them just to make them last longer, because then you won't be able to get all the fun effects and it's just not going to work the same. Liquid white, yellows. We're going to keep this one a little bit darker on this side because again our sun is over here. So we're going to add crimson into almost all of our colors. And that's just going to help keep it a little bit more to the shadowy side while allowing us to play with these really fun autumn colors still. Let's get some crimson and bright red. Ooh. Oh yeah, those colors together are just so fun. We'll put in some reds up here. When we're painting autumn scenes, or really any scene, I really try to focus the primary amounts of red right in the center here. As we move out to the outside, we want to kind of dull and darken that because our eyes are going to naturally gravitate towards that red. And so if we're always focusing in towards the red, but then it's all on the edges, we might not get the whole view of the painting. So think about it. We've got some red, it's dull, getting picked up a little bit. Ooh, look at that really bright red. And then we're coming down into this bright red and we're circling back around. So I want to make sure that we think about that and think about where our eyes go when we're painting it and where we really want the focus points to be so that we can create those illusions and nobody else will have to think about it. We take that out of, you know, the pressure of the viewer. We can create it for you. So, crimsons, now we're moving with our crimson and red, but into more of these golds and browns. And now this is not as red, it's more of our brown tones here. So we can even pick up a touch of our greens. And we've got some maroons and browns over here. Really nice colors to work with, but they're not too bold. Now let's push it back into the golds together with maybe a touch of green. I'm going to pick up some Indian yellow here because I love Indian yellow and our liquid white. Ooh, I still have some. Just those two. And then we'll muddy it down with some of our greens and blues. There we go. nice autumn colors still, but we're kind of just playing with the shadows over here. The reds can dull, but we don't want it to bring it out too much. There we go. Now, right up here, we need just a touch of sunshine. We'll find whatever light colors we can grab. Touch of red, just a touch. And on these rocks right there, touch of sunshine. We'll just clean up a couple of these edges here and just bring some of these together so we don't have so many individual planes here. Something like that, maybe. And what about just one little, like it's a little maple or something just sprouting out, little baby guy. And take your palette knife and scrape in. Ugh. These little branches. And we just, like they were there the whole time, and you knew it. You guys think I planned like all of these individual bushes. You just see them. They're right there. Right there. Oh, there's another one. And you just put them in. Oh my goodness. That was such a fun scene. I think I'm going to sign it. No, I'm going to put a bird in it. It's been a while since I painted a bird. Don't laugh. Okay, I'm going to pick some browns. Just a few browns. And I want to thin it and lighten it just a touch. So I went into just some of my liquid white I had. I just want to make sure that I can get my brush to kind of wiggle around, and we'll pull it into a fine point. And I'm thinking, I'm going to put them right. Maybe I'll try not to block the camera. We'll see. Right here. 1. 2. One more right here. Careful. Start from the middle. Push your brush in and pull away. Oh, that was the ticket. Okay, signing it with some, I'm going to go into my liquid white and then right into my big red pile over here. We'll just mix up kind of a pinkish red. Whatever is medium to thin. There's not a lot of paint over here. If I was signing over here, I would need it really, really thin. But that's why I'm not going to sign it there. I'm going to sign it over here because it'll be easier. Nice little signature. I remember some of my first paintings that I ever did, and my signature was like 3 inches by 3 inches. It was almost like it was its own little painting of itself, like I needed to take up space or something. I don't know, but that's okay too. If you want to sign your painting by signing the entire bottom half, you can do that. It's your world. You make the rules while you're on this canvas. You can do whatever. Whew. Look at that. Birds and everything. Love it. All right. I am all done with my painting and I love it. I think it's awesome. I'm really excited for this to dry for about a week so that I can go hang it on my wall and stare at it for a period of time. I don't know how long. It depends, because somebody might want to buy it, and you know, if the right person comes along, it's theirs for the right price. So check out my website. I do have a bunch of new available paintings. Some of the last maybe 10 episodes, we've got some paintings available on my website, Kaylee at KayleeRakowski.com. You can shop all of my new paintings. If there's something there or a painting that you saw recently that you really want that you didn't see on my website, you can email me, Kaylee at KayleeRakowski.com. I will see what I have. If it's not dry yet, we can always just give you a timeline and let you know what that'll look like. So thank you all so much for being here with me for episode number 80 of Tutorial Tuesday, my favorite part of Tuesday, my favorite part of the week, and I'm so excited that you are all here to be with me for this wonderful painting. I will see you all next week in Tutorial Tuesday live premiere, 5 o'clock every Tuesday. Smile and be happy, friends. Hey everyone, I wanted to just take a few minutes to share my little nugget, Abby. She is 19 years old, has one tooth, and is the cutest part of every day. And she's behind the scenes all the time, cheering us on and pooping and peeing everywhere. So I just thought I would share this cute little thing with you. Okay, bye.